very much. Thank you so much for inviting me today. And thank you for being here, so many of you. Time and attention is the most valuable thing nowadays. So it's great. Here we go. So I have a presentation. Today we have the AI and the human in the room, or what you need to know to stop worrying about AI and start profiting with caution. And it's an introduction and a pragmatic guide for AI for the international content distributors. And I could have also called it Start Adapting to Your New Job, and the earlier the better. Or I could have called it How to Start Using AI and Not Feeling Old or Dummy or both. This is not to offend, this is based on very autobiographical feelings that I had when I started working with AI. So what not to do when you do it with the AI. And also how not to lose too much time when trying to learn a tool that is supposed to save you time. And avoiding the cat searching torchlight moment, which happens a lot. So the reason I'm doing this seminar is because I often came out of an AI panel that has been impressive and very, very incredible. And I felt very overwhelmed about the level of technology, the level of capacity, and I felt very much out of it. And I had a very big problem on understanding what do I do now? And with all this technology, I just didn't know where to start. And I thought that must be something that many of you also feel. And I wanted to share what was my, how did I start it, everything I learned in the past many months. And I wanted to share it because sharing is caring. So the content I'm going to be teaching you today, or talking about today, is on the one hand, the elephant in the room, or all the noise you have in your head. First of all, on the legal side, is it going to be illegal? Is it going to be legal? Can I use it? Can I not? What can I use? How can I be pragmatic and take use of it, but not infringe any rules? And ethically, what do I do with that? How do I feel about this? And how do I get it? How do I get inside of AI? Then we're going to see, working with AI, where to start, what is going to be most probably the way you feel and the stages you're going to go through when you start working with AI, and how the journey is going to look like, which I think is very important so that you understand whatever phase you are, that's normal, you will go next. And tips to get started, what are the best applications, and I'm not naming many or very complex ones, so that is really applicable, and I'm going to make some predictions for a couple of years going on. All right, so I jump into the elephant in the room, one of them, the legal one. What is it with AI? How legal is this? Are we really everyone is going to sue everything? Are we going to be blamed in a couple of years for using something that we thought it was fine? And how is it looking like? All right, so there's a couple of lawsuits right now on the table. And maybe I'll go to the first one. It's very difficult because, as you know, the LLMs, and I'm sure all of you know, that is a very complex way of collecting an incredible size of data. And it goes into a very kind of a black box, to make it very simple. And it's hard to understand, or it's hard to prove that whatever comes out of it is coming from whatever you have or they have been taking from you. That path is very, very difficult to locate. But this was an easy one for Getty, which is actually suing in the UK. And it's suing because it was very easy recognizable, and you'll see it not only in the photos, but also the logo of Getty is part of the photo that was coming out of Stability AI. So they're suing, and they have a very robust case. There has not been any clear situation. We don't know yet how the trial is going to be, but one of the main points, which is very interesting to share with you, is that the place of infringement of that copyright rule has to be determined. And there is a big debate whether it is the place where the LLC has been trained or the place where the servers were, in this case in the UK. So of course, Stability AI says it happened in the US, where they train the LLMs. On the other hand, they say that in the UK, the servers have been in the UK and they want to have the lawsuit being in the UK. So that is one. And there's also a lot of guessing that is going to be my voice, for example. Scarlett Johansson in the beautiful movie Her was a perfect voice for ChatGPT, and she was asked to be the voice of ChatGPT, and she said no. She rejected of being that voice and being used forever. I don't blame her. But when the voice of ChatGPT came out, she said, hey, wait a second, that's me, and that's too much like me. Now, what happens is that the resemblance of the voice is not sufficient to say it's her voice. And ChatGPT has proven that they have been searching for non-union actors to provide voices that were, and they had a description of the voice, that was warm, engaging, and charismatic, and the word Scarlett Johansson was not in the description. Under that circumstances, you cannot say that that has been my voice, even though they could have found a voice that is very similar to Scarlett Johansson. So we don't see that Sue going very much farther, which is an interesting case. Now, when you look, there's not only actors and not only photographies, but also news are very strongly on the take right now in the moment of AI. And the publisher seems to have two very bipolar positions. You either have the New York Times, which is suing ChatGPT, and Microsoft, and they're doing it because they are trained with their data without consent. They're suing them because they're mimicking the expressive style. Good luck with that. And they're also for wrongly attributing false information to the New York Times. So we're going to see how far that goes. It's already being, it's far from being finished or far from being done, but that is a very clear stand by suing those that are providing the information. On the other hand, however, a very pragmatical and financial way of dealing with that was the Shutterstock, Associated Press, Axel Springer, Reddit, or the Financial Times. They are cutting deals, and for Reddit it was amazing. It just went public a month ago, and the deal that they cut on ChatGPT, which is incredible, made the stock really raise. They're cutting a lot of money now. Now, the thing that is very interesting here is that the deals are on a per annum basis. That means a lot of money for now, but if for whatever reason that rights do no longer have to be asked or do no longer have to be paid, they could have stopped paying that value. So this is the other side. And then on the other hand, we have now a lobby or a chamber of progress, it's called. It's an organization being run by giants such as Amazon, Apple, Meta, or Midjourney. ChatGPT is not part of it, which is very interesting. And they have just last Thursday, it's really hard to do a panel on this topic because you have to constantly, 2 days ahead, you have to read what has happened. In fact, tonight, this time, in Cupertino, Apple is launching their, most likely, AI big news because they haven't been announcing anything. And we know well, everyone that follows Apple, that even though they're very quiet, they're very much ahead of with the technology. So let's see what happens today. If nothing happens, please invite me for a drink I'll be around. All right, so on the Chamber of Progress, they have been a very, very bold push. Last Thursday, they announced a campaign that was titled Generate and Create. Very positive. And the goal is to assert the legal footing for using copyright material to train artificial intelligence systems under the banner of fair use. So it's very important to have few words here and few concepts that are going to be repeatedly, and they're going to be part of our daily reading if we focus on AI, which is going to come on, and it's going to go for very long, most likely. The new words are transformative, so the new work has to be transformative. That's very important. That's a key issue. Publicly available is also a very big thing, meaning that even if it has a copyright, but I am able to reach that information without having to register, that means it is publicly available. Whatever that means, there's a feeling that if that was publicly able to get without a registration, it should be able to be read or to be used for LLMs. That is another point. And in general, in the legal side, I am not a guru, I am not a lawyer, and I am just someone reading out the press, but it's going to be going on for another year. There's a big interest on the press, on the technology to move on. There is a big expectation from the technology side that something like the Section 230, which you might know, which is the one that doesn't expose any platform by carrying third-party content, like YouTube and many other platforms are based on that the section will also include a sort of allowing them to have access to a certain content. But at this point, we're in the middle of a gray area, and it's going to stay gray for quite some time. But now again, that should not be a reason for us not to use it for those who work on the content section and on the content side. And I was very strongly focused on content distribution and content creation, which I think is really important. Now, if you happen to have a script, if you happen to be very, very careful with your script and you want to have a very clear answer of what do I do to be safe? I mean, great that you are very relaxed, Maria, but what do I do to make sure that my script is not going anywhere? And be absolutely sure. Well, what you can do is you can publish it only in your own web and in your own platform, not anywhere else. You can use watermarking like Glaze. The Glaze has been done by the Chicago University that puts certain parameters within a photo or a video that doesn't get seen by the humans, but it alters whenever a machine is filtering the information. So again, it's generated by AI. So AI is the answer of AI, which I think makes total sense. What else? But it's generated and it's allowing you to distort what you have created so that it's not easily copied. And that is an option. And also you can have a closed system to train data. That is obviously something that can only be done if your size of your company has a certain volume and a certain capacity. Now, staying in a room full of fires, seeing how you work fires is not an option. That is very clear. But also hiding your head under a hole is not an option because it's just it's everywhere and we have to accept it. There was a very good line from Mary Rosenberg, who is the CEO of the Authors Guild in the US, and she said to Hollywood Reporter, we have to be proactive because generative AI is here and is going to stay. So they are at this point negotiating a blanket agreement for AI companies, and they're going to let their talent and the actors decide whether they want to be part of it or not, but they have to be proactive finding a solution. All right, but this is all good, but how does it work? Well, it's complex. I won't get it. It takes too long to learn, how to save time again, so I'm not sure. I will do it, but it's just something for tomorrow. That's a very, very normal, typical one. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit how the phases of start working with AI works. Now, there's something with AI that is a bit annoying, which is called productivity. Everyone talks about AI in the face of productivity. Now, because from someone who is from outside the AI world, they think that it's going to be faster and quicker. And it's not just productivity. Productivity is a side effect, but it's very clearly to allow you to have a much bigger picture focus, to have a much more focus on things that you as a human are able to do, and to be able to skip some of the multiple small decisions and multiple tasks that are small, that are taking some of your time, and will not allow you to move quicker. So in a way, you do get productivity, but that shouldn't be the focus of being on AI. Now, there's a first phase where you go and say, okay, so they told me to work with AI, fine, great, let's do a zero-shot trial. Show me a trailer of something happening in the world, and then you have a prompt that is very long, and you give it to them, and what comes out is kitsch, it's horrible, you don't see it, and you think, great, it's shit, I'm so happy. This is like worst intern ever, so I should be relaxed, this is not going to go anywhere. And then they say, no, test it again, and then you take a little more time. Maybe you have someone helping you, and you start putting the right order, and you start working with it, and then you go very, very still, and you say, oh dear, this is my job, right? Whatever is coming out is exactly what I used to do. Now what happens here? And it's a very strong panic moment. And that should also not happen, because what you have is the capacity of judging whether the work is happening correctly, of being able to take it to the next level, of understanding the complex, and you are the human and the professional in the room. So that is something that the AI will not be able to ever do. And then you have a random phase where you start working with it, and you start playing with that, and you start doing this and that is where you start to become the cat searching for the starlight. And you, all of a sudden, spend way too much time by taking care of all the possibilities, the 120 possibilities, all of a sudden open up for you. And you think it's cool, you think it works, you think you can, you feel the freedom of being able to create so much, but you're not being productive. It's only when you stop doing that and you say, okay, I can do 20 things with it, but I'm just going to do one now. And you start inserting it in the way you work. And you start working the way you do by knowing that that capacity of AI is going to do that for you, and being able to move forward in a much better way. And that is where you start the proactive phase. A very helpful way of working with AI is have someone from AI, someone from the technology, some IT expert, someone who has worked it more, being with someone who is not working, but is an expert on his field, on her field, and being a companion and guiding, because that collaboration is incredibly important. For someone who is an expert on certain fields, having that tailored trip is really, really great. Now you would say, yes, great, Maria, but you have not told about any tools yet. All right, let's look at the tools. Now, when you look at the tools, and all these tools are great, forget about the tools. Important about AI is to focus on the capacity, because the apps are going to change. Now there are these apps, but all of a sudden there's going to be other apps. Within the same month, I changed sometimes to 3 different apps because something was better, because they had a better improvement, and it was for free. It's incredible, by the way. It's a very strong democratization of tools, and we're capable of reaching a level of professionalism with a very, very small pockets, which is incredible. It's a similar revolution like in the internet in a way. And you start planning big tasks in small steps, and you stay focused. This is the tool, and what I really should be enforcing in this conversation. But if you want to know the tools, those are the tools that I would highly recommend. Happy to share the presentation to whoever wants it. But these are the ones. I put them in the order that I would go for it. Copilot is not available everywhere, and and except for the last 2, the rest are not. Doesn't cost any money. And now, how do we deal with these tools? So we insert prompts. And what are prompts? Well, prompts, for those who are not from this genre, they are just queries that we give to LLMs to do something. So they're just queries. And for an image prompt, for example, there's not a static rule of how to do it, but a very good way to move forward is to talk about the medium, talk about the subject, have an action be involved, have the setting being described, the style, the reference, then talk about the mood, the framing, and the effect you wanted on the photo. And it's an old painting, young redhead lady reading from a Kindle, and she's near a fire, a field of poppies, impressionist styled, like a Jane Austen book, melancholic, and long-angle shot and foggy, for example. And then you have. Now, if you look at text prompts, not for photos, it's interesting how it's no longer like the Google used to go, where you have all the keywords and you see what happens. You can really have a good pitch to them. You can really be including a lot of information to the server. You have to be concise and be friendly. You have to define the output length, so many words, or the details how you want it to come out. You have to specify the desired tone, which is, for example, saying, imagine you are my mother, or imagine you are a 13-year-old. So you want to tell, which is also called personalization. You want to tell ChatGPT who he or she is. It is, right? I guess it is. You have to say, you are a professor, or you are a news communicator, so that they adopt that style, which is really impressive. You can add examples, so you can give them the talk you had, or your last post on LinkedIn, and say, this is my style, please adopt my style, and they will do so. That's very, very helpful. You can give them a model or a persona, so you say, you are my teacher, you are whatever, 50 years old, and we are working in Alaska, and whatever that is, if you give them a persona, they will have a much easier way of explaining what is it that you wanted to have it given. And then you have to sometimes give them the chain of thoughts. So imagine you're going to be telling ChatGPT or whatever, you're going to say, listen, first, I want you to analyze, and you have to tell them, best way is to say, you want to analyze what will be the penetration, let's say, of Disney Plus in the territory, and then have a look at how many people have seen that movie, and then have a look at what will be the ratio of popularity of that actress when you take into consideration those father too. And ChatGPT will do it for you, or whatever that is. I have this bias with this project, but so it's really interesting to add the chain of thought and tell them how it should elaborate that analysis. Split complex tasks into simple ones, which are very important. You can influentiate AI. How do you do that? You can write down, this is very important. My boss is going to decide whether I can stay in the company. And ChatGPT will do a better job, will be more thoughtful, we'll be more careful, we'll have more words. That is crazy. And in fact, I read somewhere that when you tell ChatGPT we have May, because they are more lazy if they think it's December. But if you tell Chat that it's May, for whatever reason, people in May work harder, so they will think, or it will give you a much more accurate, a much more precise outcome. Yes, it's interesting because when you look at the acceptance of mistakes for a human, we're very much relaxed on it, and we understand that humans make mistakes, but we're very, very intolerant when we talk about machines making mistakes, which is incredibly interesting for us, to see how difficult we take it. Yes, we can also include examples, which is very helpful, so we can add a photo or a description. There is right now, from the last 2 weeks, has been inserted that you can create pictures always based on the same character, meaning that it will not create a new character every time you make a prompt, but it will continue to develop the same character on different situations, which is incredibly helpful. And you can also ask them to improve your prompt, which is funny, and you have to be aware that it has some hallucinations. Again, sometimes they're not trained until nowadays. When you ask them something that cannot be known, they create the answer. And it's very, very confusing. It's very confusing to have a Nobel Prize, Nobel award, all of a sudden giving you the wrong answer because you least expect it. So that is absolutely surprising. All right, so I'm going to make an example. I only had 15 minutes, so I'm not going to give you a very long, but I wanted to show you a video of someone who did a trailer who was not a content creator, who was just someone who used those apps that you have there, ChatGPT, 11 Labs, Suno, Midjourney, Runaway, Capping. As you see, the number of apps that are involved are plenty. You will see how the apps is very efficient to go from one to the other and export and import the content because each of the service brings a bit farther. And just have a look at the video, at the trailer, please.
They thought the horrors were left behind, buried in the past. But some places never let go. This summer, return to the place where nightmares live, as the secrets that slumbered within these walls awaken once more. Do you dare walk the haunted halls of the Overlook in the chilling continuation of a legendary tale? Face the terror, unlock the mystery, and find out if you can ever really leave. The Overlook, coming soon. Will you check in?
Yeah, amazing, isn't it? I asked Dan Taylor-Watt to give us permission to screen it in the room. He did it himself, and as you can see, you would not need a big brain to know that which movie was being scanned, right? But so it's a shame. But of course, it was not part. None of the prompts included the movie we'll have in our minds, which is crazy. Yeah, all right. Well, but then, if you're an executive distributor, what is it for me? How can I do it with this? Well, you have accessibility to great dossiers from from a great designers that are now much more easy. You can localize to multiple languages and subtitles. You don't have to be a bigger company to be able to do that. There's plenty of applications, and they're fantastic. You can create teasers. You can create mood trailers. And that would be something like an example. It's, of course, about example, but I thought it would be great to have something as pretty as that to be seen. And you can create micro trailers of the content that you have. I always find it very important when you have trailers based on the different characters, because very often the trailer of your TV series or your movie shows the main story, but it doesn't let you understand some of the characters that are important for sale. And these are great things that now you can do that you were not able to do before. There's two, and I think Maria and Jonathan mentioned some of those applications, but there are two applications that are very fixed. They're very good for content production, which allows you to have the production schedule and to look at the budget and to follow the budget, and they're great. And they put them on this Film Mustache and the script and Kapun.ai, which I highly recommend. And that was about it. I would love to now throw some predictions, just because why not? I can. So my predictions is that next year this panel will not be necessary. That's it. That's very good. That 2026 we no longer talk about AI. It's just omnipresence and everywhere. And that soon after we have forgotten how we enter keywords on Google to search for anything. We just don't know how it works. And and hopefully, and this is my last line, we start paying for information. I think it's a great thing that we value now how many of these applications are doing, that we get it without advertisement, that we have a good summary, and we have sometimes, depends on who we work with, which chat or which company, we have the link where the information comes from, and I think it will be an incredible, good, big step for humanity, and I mean it. All right, and my recommendations is surf the moment, focus on openness, not on tools. Never forget direction, it's really important. AI tools are like new pencils, it's only that, and you are the human in the room. So you should be and stay and feel like the human in the room. All right, and salmon in the river, here we go. So anyone who had never done mistakes have never done something new. So isn't it nice that they make such big mistakes? All right, so that was it. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being here.